Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, Digital Media Relations Manager here in Chesterfield. Very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, one of the fun things about doing a show like this is you get to do a lot of like government stuff, and you get to talk to a lot of folks who have been doing a lot of good via the government side. Different programs, different opportunities to get out in the community. One of the fun things about doing it, though, is that you also get to talk to some folks who are actually in the community doing lots of different things. And I'm very excited to welcome Caroline Neal from Worthdays here today to talk to us about that organization and some of the work that they do. So first, Caroline, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm good.
I very much appreciate that you are willing to spend some time here on a Monday afternoon talking about your work and doing it on a government podcast. I always like to start with a little bit of an intro, and here this is especially important because of what your background here is, and especially here in Chesterfield County. So before we dive into Worthdays specifically, what was your background before that journey began, and how did you sort of come to be sitting here across from me today?
Yeah, I'm a Richmond native and grew up in the city. I live in Chesterfield now, and I'm a mom of 3 boys. I say that I come to this work naturally as I have some family ties to the foster care and kinship community.
Right.
Went to school at Longwood and then went to graduate school at VCU and immediately started working at Chesterfield County.
Yeah.
When I graduated from graduate school.
Okay.
So I worked for the county for about 10 years before starting Worthdays.
Yeah. So a decade of your life here in Chesterfield County, as in the government complex, the government organization, so to speak, and then you decide to branch out onto your own to start Worthdays. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of how you would even explain what Worthdays is, I'm curious the why. What was the why that kind of led you to leave where you were in Chesterfield County and start Worthdays?
Sure. So in full transparency, I stepped away from the county. I loved working for the county. I loved my job, super passionate about the foster care system in general, the child welfare system. But I had 3 little boys and stepped away to raise them for a period of time, but knew immediately that I needed to do something while I was in that phase of life, right? So I kind of thought, what is it that I can do? If you know anything about the foster care system, it's an incredibly broken system. So there's a lot to do.
Right.
But in being realistic about kind of where I was in my life, around that time, I was working with a young man who I was actually on maternity leave with my 3rd son, and I had worked with him for years. I was his social worker. I was really one of his only people in his life at that point. Right. He was turning 16. And he was off in a different part of the state at the time. And it was his birthday. And so I thought I can't be there with him. I'm on leave right now. And so I need to do something.
Right.
So I got a few things for him and put it in a box and took it to the post office and wrote on there, "Don't open until your birthday." And
do you think he listened?
I don't know. And then, I called him on his birthday, and the folks that were at the treatment center where he was living at the time said, well, he's already used his 10 minutes of phone time today. And so something about that just was a spark for me to say, you know what, that's what I can do.
Yeah.
There are literally, it's hard for a lot of people to believe, but there are literally kids in our backyards per se that are having birthdays or other important days in their life where no one is even acknowledging that day.
Right.
And so it was just at that moment that I decided that's what I can do.
Yeah. So how would you explain Worthdays? Imagine I'm 5. Explain Worthdays to me like I'm 5. How would you sort of put it together, in not just in terms of the way it is now, but the way that it's sort of maybe even grown over the years?
Sure. So it's sometimes hard to put into words, but
it's a shame that you're on a podcast.
I know. The official mission that we've come up with is to mobilize the community to ensure that those impacted by the foster care system know that they are important, worthy, and celebrated, right? But that's super big and doesn't quite explain exactly what we do. So kind of the bedrock, or kind of how we got started, obviously based on that story that I shared shared was the easiest way if you were 5, 10 maybe to explain. I tell people, most people in this area at least are familiar with the angel tree, right?
Okay.
At the holiday season.
Uh-huh.
So the easiest way to explain it is we're the angel tree for birthdays of kids in foster care.
Right. Okay.
And so what we do is we work with 9 different localities, most of which are in this area.
Okay.
And the social workers tell us this is a kid who will not be celebrated for their birthday. And they send some information about the young person to us. And then we assign that, kind of like Angel Tree, we assign it to somebody in the community. Okay. And the person in the community creates what we call a birthday box. Okay. I tell people often it's way bigger than just birthday gifts, right? So of course there are birthday gifts as part of the birthday box. But it's really what the sponsor is doing is they're creating an opportunity for joy for that young person. And so that's going to look really different depending on what that child's got going on, right? So like this month, for example, we had an 18th birthday of a young man who was a self-proclaimed neat freak who had just gotten his first car, which an interesting statistic, less than 3% of young people in foster care get their driver's license by the time they're 18. And then we expect for them to, work and
do all the things.
Right? So this is a huge deal, right? Something that should be celebrated. So he just got his first car. He's a neat freak. His favorite color was navy blue, and the pair of shoes that he has currently have a hole in them. So we know that he's living at a group home. And then, of course, we know like his name and a few other things. So the sponsor for his birthday would get him gifts that would, hopefully maybe a pair of shoes, maybe some things to help him. The social worker had mentioned something about stuff to clean his car, right? Naturally. And so the sponsor would work on those kinds of things, but also, include things like cake mix and candles. Various other things, so that he can celebrate with, sometimes it might look like him celebrating with a social worker, or sometimes it's him celebrating with the other young men that are in the group home. Like people are incredible. Like some people have gone as far as providing like a pizza gift card so they can order pizza and celebrate together at the group home, or even for little kids, like providing goodie bags for everybody at the group home or whatever it might be. But then there might be a kid who's in a treatment center and they really can't they have a lot of restrictions about what they can have. So the sponsor's not going to include like cake mix and all of that. They're going to include like some candy or some hostess cakes or things like that. So everything that we do ultimately is super personalized to that child. And that's for a reason.
Yeah, I was curious about that because you mentioned, before you even started, I was like, getting the information about sort of the things that kid likes and doesn't like. And, this is good, this is not good, that kind of thing. And I'm guessing a lot of times it's that social worker, it's to somebody who's that sort of connect in terms of the information that gets that from them to, the sponsor.
Yep.
And then did you say a second ago, the way you explained or the way you were describing it made me think, are the sponsors sticking with them for more than one birthday, or how does that work? No,
they don't. It's kind of a one-time thing. Okay, cool. Of course, there have been times where the same sponsor has gotten the same kid year after year, but kind of based on the description probably. But it's typically a one-time thing. And people oftentimes, I think the curiosity in people, and just people really are incredibly generous and intentional about their giving, to the point where people really want to know kind of what happens when the kid is gifted, those things. And unfortunately, the large majority of the time we don't ever hear, right? And that's for a lot of different reasons. But I think that it's just the joy. The really cool thing about what we do is we say it's like joy multiplied, because the kid, of course, has the opportunity to experience joy,
Right.
but then the sponsor often says, we receive so much joy from doing this, right?
Yeah.
And then social workers that are the ones who are physically giving the things to the kids, they often say, that was the one time that I didn't have to have a really hard conversation with this kid, or that we were really able to focus on what they really liked or what they want to be when they get older or whatever it is, you know? So it's oftentimes an opportunity where, you know, joy really is multiplied.
Right. Yeah. And I can see that joy radiated in all directions, right? Just the impact that it has, not just like you said, on the social worker who was used to having so many rough conversations, so much focus on why that child is in foster care and why, you know, why this is happening, why that's happening. Now you're able to get, you know, those meaningful, even deeper conversations about, like you said, what someone likes, what makes them tick and that kind of thing. And then also too, the idea, right, of that joy that that is from the kid who's in foster care, who then is going to share that with somebody else who shares with somebody. And I know that, you know, you start talking about this kind of stuff sometimes, and it sounds a little Pollyanna to some people, but that's just the real way. Kindness is free. And at the end of the day, you know, those kinds of things matter to people. I'm curious, from when you first started this, what was it like to get this thing off the ground? Like what were those first, you know, weeks, months, even, you know, years like for you as you started to try to get your arms around how you could even do this and make this a thing?
Sure. And I want to touch on something you said, go off script for a second. That idea that you said, the Pollyanna piece, you know, I think it's really important. And I want to make sure that people hear me say the foster care system is broken. It's filled with trauma and loss and grief. And I will often be the person speaking loudly about the challenges with the system. So I really do want to make sure that's one of the things that we do while we are working on these opportunities of joy, also just spreading awareness. That these are the realities of the system. It's not all about joy, for sure. But the other reality is that we know from research that people can experience joy while also experiencing grief and loss and trauma and brokenness. And so if we can give that opportunity to a young person, then we're going to give it, right? Whether or not they can receive it at that time. But if nothing else, we're saying, and in everything that we do, is you are worthy. Someone thought of you. We see you. You know, even just the idea that, gosh, somebody picked out exactly what I wanted, you know? So even if their brain doesn't have the capacity at the moment to experience joy, right? That our hope is that that's the message we're sending. That it's not just some random stuff that someone put in a bag, right? That it was specifically for them. It's intentional. And that we do a lot to put kids' names on stuff. So like, you know, this one that I just delivered, it's a beautiful, like, you know, stainless steel water bottle that has her name etched in it. And people monogram bags, and it's just gorgeous. I really have the opportunity to witness the good in humanity every single month because of what the community does, but also the heartbreak of just the situations that I hear about and know of because of our work that kids are navigating every single day. So now I have forgotten the question you asked me, but I did just want to go off script real quick and say that while we had the opportunity.
I definitely appreciate that. No, what I was asking was, like, what was it like to get this thing off the ground? What was it like to start? What were those first, you know, weeks, months, years like?
Got it. So I explained I was on maternity leave and decided to step away from my job to raise my kiddos, but I'm not the kind of person that just can sit around. And so I said, what can we do? And this is what I decided to go with. And so because Chesterfield Social Services knew me and trusted me, I sat down with one of their folks in leadership and said, hey, what do you think? And they were like, let's do it. And so really a lot of what we do, we piloted in Chesterfield.
Nice.
And
that's cool.
So almost 10 years. It's hard to believe, but yes, Chesterfield is a big piece of the story naturally because of that. And they trusted me to say, all right, let's try it. And I won't lie and tell you that there weren't times when I thought, gosh, I've got this idea and I know there's a need, but are people going to believe in this idea? You know, because it's like I'm signing on to celebrate birthdays, and then what if nobody does it? You know, but I didn't have to think that way for long, because anybody that knows much about us knows that when we put a need out there into the world, people meet it, and then they say, "What else can we do?"
Can we do? Yeah. And I would imagine too that, like, as you're starting something, that energy is huge, because everybody who's ever started a thing knows that even if you have a great idea, and even if you've got the best of intentions, and even if you do have a lot of people that are with you, you know, sometimes it can be hard. And I can imagine that energy is exactly the kind of thing you needed on a week to week, month to month kind of basis.
Yeah.
In terms of the bigger picture, you kind of have already done this a little bit, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Take us through from almost like soup to nuts, what it looks like for how this process really works.
Yeah.
Because you've mentioned a couple of times that, like, a social worker will reach out. Are you waiting for them to reach out to you? Are you reaching out to them? Like, how does that process work to go from here's a kid who's in foster care who could really benefit from this? You get that information. What does it look like as it goes through like that sort of pipeline all the way to actually the gift being given? Yeah.
So we have a whole referral process that we work, like I said, we work with 9 different localities. The social workers know, to send in referrals to me. We kind of do it on a month by month basis. Okay. So like right now, since, we're coming up on July quickly, I am actually delivering all the July birthdays to all of our partner agencies.
Gotcha.
Social workers in Virginia have to see each of the children at least one time a month. Okay. And so people often believe that like a kid in Chesterfield live in the custody of Chesterfield Social Services or in foster care in Chesterfield live in Chesterfield, which is not true.
Okay.
Kids that are in foster care in Chesterfield, it only just means that when they came into foster care, so when they interacted with our court system,
right.
that they were living in Chesterfield at that moment.
Okay.
They can live anywhere in the state and sometimes out of state.
Oh, wow.
And so social workers are traveling throughout the state all month. So we get the birthdays by July 1st so that whether that kid's birthday is on the 1st or the 30th, right. that the social worker has it to take right. to the child. So we get the information from the social workers. We put that out in a couple of different formats, email, social media. And people, we say a little bit about each kid. So similar to Angel Tree, like, kids turning 18, really likes LeBron James, favorite color is purple, and, wants a bike. And so they say, I'd like to celebrate that kid. Right. And so then we assign it to that person.
Gotcha.
Or a lot of times it's groups, it's businesses, it's faith communities, it's lots of different people and places and groups. But we assign it to them. They have several weeks to work on it. Okay. And then they deliver it to our drop-off locations. We kind of prep it and make sure they're all ready to roll and organized to which agency, and then we deliver them to each of the agencies.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And then the social worker delivers it to the young person. Yeah.
Now, in terms of what you guys do, you do more than just birthdays, right? There's a whole lot more that goes into this that you guys do that's not just the actual giving of the gift on the birthday, right?
Yeah. A lot of people know us for birthdays. And most of what we do focuses around joy in some way, right?
Right.
Or that message that you're worthy.
Right.
But it really just is a host of other things. As we have grown, you mentioned earlier, just kind of as we have transformed over the years, we've gone from birthdays to lots of other holidays. So like Easter and, the holiday season at the end of the year, and high school graduations and all kinds of different things. But then we also recognize that there's lots of otherwise unmet needs of the foster care system. There's actually a lot of money that funnels in federally, state, local to the foster care system, but it's oftentimes really restricted. Okay. And there's lots of hoops to jump through. Right. So sometimes social workers need things quickly, right? So like a social worker reached out to us this week about 2 little kids coming into foster care, and they needed some things like that moment.
Right, yeah.
And so we have the flexibility to say, hey, let's help. How can we help?
Right.
So we help with lots of otherwise unmet needs. So that can look like any ranges from a social worker saying, hey, We need a stash of duffel bags because we don't want our kids carrying their stuff in trash bags.
Right.
To, hey, we have a kid who is going to go live with mom in, another state, and we need airfare for that kid. Or one time we flew a kid to another state in his mom's last days so that he could be with her. He had aged out of foster care. Or it could look like this kid has had a major shift in weight and needs clothing quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, I could just keep reeling off the different examples, but really it's things that focus on safety, permanency, which in our world means like, are they able to go back to the parents? Are they able to go to a relative or adoption? We're really big on supporting reunification with families and kinship care when we're able to. So maybe that means it's a bunk bed because the kid is going to auntie, and auntie doesn't have a bed.
Right. Yeah.
And then a lot of what we do, so we meet a lot of those needs, but then we also kind of serve as a bridge to other organizations. Okay. So like the bed example, the social worker may say, hey, this kid needs a bed, right? So there's an organization that actually that's their whole mission is to get kids off the floor. And so if they're able to meet the need, then we build the bridge over to their org, right? Yeah. If they're not able to do it, then we'll certainly meet that need. Right. And so we do that in a lot of different ways with a lot of different organizations, so that we can, continue to use our resources well, but also maximize on other people's missions. There's a whole organization that does stuff with meets essential needs of kids 0 to 3. So you think of like, diapers and
that's a very
all of
reality,
those things, right? Yeah. So if it's something that they can, if that's a need that they can meet, then we build a bridge over there,
Gotcha. Cool.
So
I got 2 more for you. The first one is, I'm just curious, and this might be harder to put into words too, but how rewarding for you is this work? And what does it feel like to help people give back and for you to give back in this way?
Yeah, it's certainly very rewarding. Like I said earlier, I really, it's almost like every month I'm surprised over and over again. But when you see that the birthday boxes that people do, which are really usually not even a box, they're oftentimes like a duffel bag or a laundry basket or, a variety of things. We ask people to put gifts in some type of reusable container, that makes sense, right? So that the kiddo, we're kind of addressing the issue of the trash bags. We can get rid of that, eradicate trash bags while we're celebrating birthdays. But, it is beautiful to see that when people know about the needs, that they will meet it. Yeah. Oftentimes when I worked for the county, it can feel pretty isolating, because you kind of feel like, gosh, like there's all this stuff going on right in our backyards and people don't help. And really, I think it's just because people don't know and people aren't aware. And so it's been really cool. I mean, we've even had people that started with by celebrating a birthday and then went on to adopt a young person in foster care because they learned. I think it really normalizes when people are like, oh, this is like just a regular old 14-year-old kid, and then they're like, oh, and then they move on to do other help in other ways. And I think that's really beautiful for me to see. And as I mentioned earlier, it's as equally as heartbreaking because you just are inundated with the reality that the need continues. The system is broken. And so that can certainly be tricky, but it is very beautiful. The whole thing. We've kind of, the cool thing about the organization is that we have learned that when we engage people kind of through the back door of foster care, right? So people who thought like, I can't help because I can't be a foster parent, right? We've engaged them through this like joyful, we use the words foster joy, right? That's a lot of what we do. But when we engage them that way, then they're like, oh, I can do this. I can do more. Off, right? Yeah. So then people are able to help. I didn't even mention, we've got people, we do a entrepreneurship group for young people aging out of foster care. We've done, one time a social worker said, I need my kids to know how to cook that are aging out of foster care. One time we did a cooking workshop that was amazing, right? So people are able to help and use their skills, their time, their resources to help us in so many different ways.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right, last one. I'll get you out of here on this. Folks listening to this, maybe they want to get involved. Maybe they want to be one of those people. What should they do? How do folks get involved? How can they help? And are there any other organizations that you partner with that you'd like to mention here as well?
Yeah. So the easiest way is really just to get in touch with me. Our website is worthdays.org, and my email is caroline@worthdays.org. We're super active on social media, on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook at Worthdays. So we oftentimes, because so much of what we do is personalized or based on the need, we're often putting stuff up there in real time. Like we need this kid's going to college and we need to fill our dorm room, or this family, we need to stock their pantry, or, whatever the need might be. So that's really the best way. Social media is a great way to stay involved, and email too. And people help in so many ways. Everybody from kids, a lot of kids help us actually. Oh, cool. We have kids that, one little boy every year for his birthday, he collects new pajamas. And so we're able to get those to kiddos in foster care. That's really cool. Or there's so many different ways that people have helped. One lady has a flower farm. She reached out to me this week and said, how can I help? And so she's going to provide flowers at a training that we're doing later this summer. So we always say everybody can do something. Yeah. And so, yes, please get in touch with me. And then there's so many other ways to get involved. CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. Chesterfield has a CASA office, but other localities do too. There's a great organization called Project Life, which provides independent living skills to young people. The ideas are really endless, and Chesterfield just reached out to me about doing a back to school bash later this summer. So we're going to be collecting some school supplies. Sweet. Yeah. So yes, if you want to get in touch, please do. There's usually a way that we can fit you in to help for sure. Good deal.
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, talking to us about Worthdays and all the work that you guys do. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia, one word. And on Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that your shows are sold. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating or review, we greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website at Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make a suggestion, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That is Comcast Channel 98, Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent and Media Services for all they do. My thanks to you for joining us today. So from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts. And I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Weekly video segments and newsletters, social media, the latest community news.
And this is your Chesterfield News Minute for September 19th.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.